Hey folks, welcome back. I'm Dave and we're here in my shop where I build E-War guitars. Well, it's all together. I finished putting on the strings on the thing last night. This is the first guitar I've ever made using a CNC machine. And if you'd like to go back and see the CNC work I've done on this thing, I'll go ahead and post the link to the whole playlist up here. But where we're at right now, we're ready to set this guitar up. In the last video, I made the two P90 pickups. And during this past week, a couple nights, I spent wiring the whole thing up. It's very hard to video that and show it. So I went ahead and did it during the week. And today I'm ready to do the all-important setup on this guitar because the guitar is not done and it's not ready to play until it's set up properly. So that's what we're going to get into today. The few things I've got to do on it, we have to first set the relief in the neck to make sure with the string tension on it, it's got the correct bow in. I'm going to give it just a very slight relief in the middle. Very, very slight. We got to do that. We're going to have to set the string action height. So each of the strings are set off at the top of the frets at the proper height. We're going to make sure the radius is right on the strings, adjusting our bridge. I've got to do the final nut slotting for the depth on my nut up here. Remember, a couple videos when I did the nut, I went ahead and pre-slotted it just to get the strings laid out in the right place. But now it's time to get it down to the right height. Then we're going to plug it into my amp. We're going to tune it up and we're going to intonate it too. And then we're going to see how this thing sounds. Anyway, let me turn down the camera and we'll get rolling with that right now. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to want to do is I want to set the relief on the neck, which is how much the neck is going to bow. Some people like it perfectly flat, and some of them like a little bit of a bow in it. I like a slight bow, but almost none whatsoever. So what we've got to do is we have to take the nut and the bridge out of the equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my capo and I'm going to set it here at the first fret, okay? And incidentally, I like to do all these neck setting operations with no support on the neck. In other words, I don't want the guitar laying down, being supported on the neck brace. I want to hold it up in like playing position. So now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to press down on the 17th fret, which is basically where the neck meets the body. So I'm now taking the body, the bridge, and the nut and everything out of the equation. Now I'm going to come right here in the middle. That's about the 8th fret right there. And I'm going to see if I have any play. I'm just going to touch slightly on the thing. And I'm up, gosh, very, very little. That's almost just right there. It's got just a little bit, there's a few thousandths right there. That was on the low E. Now I'm going to check the high E. I got just a few thousandths in there too. I'm going to see if that is very close to what I like, but I'm going to see if I can't bring it just a tad closer. Okay, so I'm going to lay it down. I'm going to get my Allen key and reach into the truss rod hole here, and I'm going to tighten that just the tiniest little bit. Okay, let's see what that did for us. Back here on the 17th. Boy, that is so... Maybe one more time. Let's give it one more turn. There we go. That thing is just... Okay, it's almost touching. It's just about right there. So I think that's good. I'm happy with that. I gave it maybe an 1/8 of a turn on that truss rod. It was very close, but I think that's probably good. So we're going to go ahead and go with that. And of course, once when I check this for string buzz or whatever, depending on how it goes, I may adjust that again. But for now, I think that's a good place to get us started. So incidentally too, each time I do an operation like setting the relief on the neck or setting the string action height or whatever, I'm always going to retune it in between each one because I want to keep constant tension on these strings on the guitar. I want to keep it tuned up. That way I've got the same pressure each time. Okay, we're back in tune. Now we're going to go ahead and check the string action height here for the bridge. And we're going to adjust that bridge to get the strings the right height. Okay, so I use a string action gauge that I got from Stu Mack. It's got all the fraction, decimal, and metric conversions on the back of the thing. It's got different measuring deals on here. It's got string height at different spots. So what I like to use is at the bottom of this little gauge, you can see I have measurements in increments of 64ths of an inch. And I like that. And I could use this edge or this edge, so I could flip it over depending on which direction I'm looking in. And what I want to do is I want to go on both the low E string. I'm going to measure from underneath the string to on top of the 22nd fret, and the high E string from under the string on top of the 22nd fret. And I like to start out with 4/64ths of an inch on the low E and go down to 3/64ths of an inch on the high E, and then set all the intermediate strings successively lower until I get down to 3/64ths. So like always, I like to pick the thing up so there's no pressure on the neck, and I'm going to put this thing right underneath. I don't know if I can get it down in this other camera here. So I'm going to put this gauge right behind the string, and I'm going to look right here, and I've got just a little under 4/64ths of an inch right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just tighten that up just a little bit. I'm going to raise that guy just a fraction. I've got it all the way bottomed out right now. Let's see what that does for us. Okay, I'm splitting that 4/64ths of an inch line right in half. Let me come down to the high E string. Gosh, that's already right there. That's great. That is 3/64ths of an inch. So that one looks good too. I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to come through each one. So here I'm on my B string. That's already good too. That's just above 3/64ths. Now the G, that is, I'm going to raise G just a little bit, just a smidge. Now let's see what that did. Nice. I'm about 3.5/64ths. D is going to have to come up just a little bit too. Let's see what we got there. Just a little bit more again, just a tad. I'm surprised these things were very, very close, basically right out of the box. That looks good. Let's see, A is going to need to go down just, I'm right at 4 right there, so I'm going to drop A just a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to go through and check one more time to see if we're good. So I've got 4/64ths, splitting the line. Okay, that looks good. So we're starting here at the low E, 4/64, working our way down, and we wind up at 3/64 on the high E string. So I think that looks good. And incidentally, I've originally set all these bridge pieces or the saddle pieces at 25.5 inches from the nut. So before we go into intonate, I wanted to do all this setup with this bridge completely set at 25.5 inches. So I did that prior. Okay, so now we want to slot this nut to its final height. If you remember a few videos ago when I was making the nut, I laid it out, I put it in the guitar, put my 2 strings on, I laid it out, and I slotted it, each string with my string spacing ruler I used. But that was just an initial slot just to get the strings to where they are now. Now the guitar is being set up, I want to go ahead and finish the slotting. So what I like to do is I like to hold each string down at the 2nd fret and then see what kind of movement I have over the 1st fret. So right now I've got a little bit, that string is almost there. But what I want to do is when holding it at the 2nd fret, I want it to almost be touching, not quite touching the 1st fret, but almost. So, and incidentally, the fact that I'm only dealing with from here to here on this guitar, it's okay that it's supported in this position. So, okay, so I can see I got to go down just a little, so I'm going to take my little thing here, and I'm going to loosen this string up, get it out of the way, and take my number 10 nut file. I'll tell you what, before I do that, I almost forgot I need to put a piece of tape there because I am bad about scratching these headstocks when I do this. So I need to, before I go any further, go ahead and slip a piece of tape in there, maybe 2, just like that, to give me just a ½ ounce of protection there. Okay, so back to it. So I got my number 10 here, and I'm slotting at an angle downwards like this because I only want that string to touch on the very leading edge of the nut. So I'm going to slot it for depth, and I'm going to take the next size up, and I'm going to widen the top of that slot, like so. Because I do not want it to grab the string. I want to basically form a V and have that string laying at the bottom of the V. Okay, now we're going to raise it back up to pitch. Okay, now let's see where we're at. It could probably go a tad deeper. Right now, it is just proud of the top of the nut. So I got some room. I don't want it to be too deep in there. So I kind of keep that in mind too. So I can go down a little bit more. And let's see where we're at now. Okay, that string is basically flush with the top of the nut. I've got just a little bit of bounce there, which is good. I'm going to go ahead and bring that one back up to pitch. Let's check it again. Okay, we're just clearing that by the slightest little bit. That should result in a very nice low playing action for this guitar. Okay, so let's look at the B. That one too has got to go down just a tiny little bit. I'm going to go just a little bit more. As the strings increase in gauge, I give it a tiny little more room under that 1st fret, but I still think I go a little bit lower. Okay. That is very close. Anyway, I don't know if you could see it or not, but you can see I've got the tops of the strings just about flush with the top of the nut all the way across until you get to the A and the low E. They're just proud of the top of the nut, but I think that looks really good. They're locked in really well. I've got a really nice clean height on it here. Just very little movement at the first fret, so I'm very pleased. Just for the heck of it, now that everything is set up, as far as the string action goes, I want to go ahead and check it here. Let's say I'm at the 7th fret on the low E string. I've got about 2/64 clearance between the string and the top of the fret. Let's see the high E. If I can get to it down there. Just a little under 2/64. So I think that's good. So what happens is, if you remember, if you watched a few weeks ago when I was doing my fret work, I taper down these last 3 or 4 frets so they fall off towards the bridge. And of course, I measured my initial height here at this 22nd fret, which would have been the lowest fret. So, which I set that at 4/64, which means I have really super low action up in this for this entire fretboard. I got a really super low action on the nut, super low action down here, and it's just, I think it's good all the way through. Anyway, now's a good time to go through it, and I want to check for string buzz because we could still change the relief of this neck a little bit if we had to. So I'm going to go through real quick and check that. So I'm going to play each note, each string at each fret. I'm not going to overly press too hard or anything. And I'm going to see if we've got any buzzing frets. Nice. Okay, very good. No fret buzz at all. So I'm happy with that. Super low action, 0 fret buzz. I think we're good. I think it's time to go ahead and intonate this thing. Okay, so it's time to intonate this guitar. So what I've got a Polytune that's plugged into the guitar. Plus I've got up on the headstock here, I've got a regular headstock tuner that I'm going to use both of them to do this. And to intonate the guitar, I'm going to do, first I'm going to play it as an open note. Okay, I'm going to hit it as an open note. Then I'm going to hit it at the 12th fret. And then I'm also going to do a harmonic at the 12th fret. And I'm going to use the combination of the harmonic and the actually fretting the 12th fret. And I'm going to set the intonation based on that, trying to get the best of both worlds there. So anyway, so first I'm going to check, make sure my tuning is good on the open string. Okay, they're looking good. Okay, it's reading just a tad flat. So flat, I'm going to move the bridge piece, the saddle, towards the headstock. Now let me tune it back up again. Okay, when I fret it, it's a tad sharp. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it back a little bit. Just a fraction of a turn. Let me reset the... Okay, that looks pretty good, I think. Let's go on to the A. Bring it up a little bit. Shoot, that one's good too. Let's try the D. Okay, so I think we've got a really nice setup in this guitar. We've got a very low action at the nut. We've got a very low action up here at the 22nd fret. In fact, we got low action on the whole thing. I think it looks good. I got the pickup set nice. We still got good relief in the neck. So I think it's time to go ahead and turn off this tuner and kind of see what kind of tones we get out of it. So let's see, this is the neck pickup. I'm probably on 3/4 volume. Tone is all the way up. Sounds pretty nice. Turn the tone down a bit. Okay, let's try the middle. Tone is all the way up, down a little bit on the tone. Okay, let's try the bridge. Well, guys, I guess that's about it for this guitar. I haven't listened to the playback yet, but I'm sure I should probably go ahead and apologize for the sound demo at this point, since I can imagine what it sounds like. One of these days I'm going to get this guitar in the hands of somebody that really knows how to play. Maybe I'll do a couple clips of it really being played. But the setup came out great. I'm loving the way the pickups sound. I think they turned out real nice. I think the whole guitar looks pretty cool too, for my first CNC built guitar. Anyway, glad you all stuck around and checked it out. Hope somebody got a little something out of it. This is how I set up my guitars. And anyway, but this one's done. So next week, I'm going to start a new series on a new guitar I'm building. I've really fallen in love with this, the new Fender Meteora, that shape. I've built a few offset guitars before, but that one I really dig it. I mean, I'm really liking it. And I'm done some sketching on it now, and I'm working on my next series. Anyway, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to take that guitar, we're going to build it from start to finish, and I'm going to do my own thing to it, of course, like I always do. But that's the direction we're heading in. Anyway, appreciate you all checking it out. Hope you all have a wonderful week. God bless you. And come back next week. We're going to start on that Meteora lookalike guitar. Anyway, y'all have a wonderful week.